Is the internet all good?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep, all good. Too easy. Alrighty. We'll get this underway. We should see a few more people pop in now. We've got the recording going too now, so we'll make sure that we put this in the archives as such and send it around. Firstly, thank you guys for taking the time to join us today. Do appreciate that. We know particularly this year has been such a wild roller coaster for everybody. A lot of people just have, super proud that you guys have made your debuts this year and we've been following your careers pretty intently. But B, it's great to have the access to ask you guys directly, how you coped with this year, given it was literally unprecedented, the way the AFL's handled the competition with the delays, the quarters changing times, the bubbles, all of the working pieces. Let's kick off just probably going through a couple of those initial questions, just about how you kind of got to where you are and the journey so far. So if I may ask, who wants to go first here? Lockie, happy to open up? Or
I'll kick it off.
You bring it on. Could you speak to us a bit about your journey just from St. Bernard's to the AFL, kind of, steps you took or how it kind of functioned?
No problem. Well, it actually, I didn't actually mean to start. I started playing footy when I was 7 down at St. Bernard's, and basically I was doing Auskick at the time and obviously loved footy, but never really had plans to start playing. But my older cousin's team, I remember, I believe he was short a couple of players. So he asked me and I was like, yeah, sure. I jumped in and sort of thought that would be it. But I hung around for the rest of the season and ended up playing. So basically from there to about under 15s, 16s, I was still at St. Bernard's playing with Xavier and all the other boys. So and that was the most fun I've had playing footy. I don't know about you, but that was heaps of fun playing down at St. Bernard's. But yeah, basically from there, was lucky enough to get out to Calder and get invited there a couple of times through different squads and things like that. And then that sort of led to another thing and led to the 18 squad, and played my 17s and 18s year there, and was fortunate enough really to be invited down to the Vic Metro squad. And then from there, basically, I was lucky enough to get picked up at the end of 2018. So yeah, that was a pretty awesome feeling.
Yeah. How about yourself, Xavier?
I suppose we're pretty similar in the fact that we grew up playing footy together. I grew up in Altona, so I went to a different primary school outside of sort of Essendon, but I moved to the junior football club, I think in under 11s, and obviously started to get to know some people for high school, including Lockie, and had a really good time, and obviously started year 7 at St. Bernard's and went all the way through to year 12 playing all the ACC footy, swimming, all that sort of thing, and catching the bus into school, which was interesting at times, but one of those things that you start with. On the footy side, played my juniors at St. Bernard's from 11s until under 16s. And then I was lucky enough to be invited to the Jets and played in that team for 2 years until the under 18s. And was also fortunate enough to captain that side as well, which I was very privileged to be able to do. Like Lockie, I was invited to the Vic Metro squad in the under 18s and 17s, and luckily enough was selected to play in both of those years for that team. And from there was invited to the National Combine, where we had 3 days of testing, and then was lucky enough to get picked up in the last pick of the first round in 2018 and drafted to the Giants. So going into my 3rd year now, and looking to have a good year next year.
Yeah. It's definitely quite interesting, just the function of how you guys got to where you did. Obviously, as you mentioned, you're pretty similar kind of paths, given you're kind of from the same area. I'm just curious, just to kind of further that point, given that, like, say, GWS is a newer team where it's probably fair to say Adelaide's a more ingrained team in the competition. Did you guys notice any, it may be a hard question to answer, I guess, but any significant differences kind of in the way that those clubs approached you, just due to the age of the clubs? Like with GWS being a younger side, did they kind of do it a bit more modern, for example, or I don't know, does that make much sense?
Is that in terms of like recruitment, like that whole process, or?
Yeah.
I think they're all very similar in terms of recruitment and things like that. It's more like you might find out through, say, them ringing you. You might get a phone call and they just, they obviously you have a quick chat and they just say, oh, look, we'd like to sit down with you and talk things over and ask you a few questions and things like that. Yeah. So you sit through those interviews and try to answer them as honestly as possible and try and put your best foot forward. But no, in terms of the way that they approach things, they're all very similar in terms of that whole recruitment process and how they go about that.
I suppose for me, the only difference between like the Giants and the other clubs that I was interviewed by was the fact that like most clubs have host families, where obviously the families welcome in one or two draftees from that draft class. But with the Giants, it's you move into a sort of gated community with no host family. So I moved in with Jai Caldwell in my first year. And we lived in a little apartment in a place called Breakfast Point in New South Wales. So I suppose that was the only real sort of difference between the sort of interviews and the different clubs that interviewed me. But yeah, other than that, as Lockie said, I can't really think of too many other differences between the clubs that interviewed, despite the obvious age difference.
Yeah, that's good. Let's have a look at, so particularly just to further the point of this year being such a different year for everybody. I think you guys obviously had a front row seat to that. Could you guys speak to a little bit about how the AFL managed the COVID era and, a bit of your experience in the bubbles? What do you think went well? What do you think went badly, if you're allowed?
At the start, we obviously played. Did we play only the first round or the second round as well?
Yeah, it was round one, and then they had that.
Yeah, so we're all primed and ready to go for round one, and obviously expecting hopefully the season to continue. But as everyone knows, it came to a halt after that. But look, the AFL did a phenomenal job in keeping the season going and alive post that sort of round one. Everyone had to quarantine and sort of, I think, did we go back home over that break?
The COVID break.
The first COVID break, one.
Yeah. I did anyway.
Yeah, same. So everyone went back home due to sort of the uncertainty about whether the season was going to continue or not. So we still had to keep relatively fit just in case, obviously, we were called back up to sort of start playing again. But sort of after that first COVID break, we all came back and sort of had to do our own individual sort of bubble in our respective states, obviously to limit sort of our contact with the public and limit the chance of us sort of getting COVID, so that we could therefore start the season. So we had a training block of about 4 to 6 weeks pre-round two, or the start up of the season again. And for myself in Sydney, we were lucky enough because we weren't like as bad as a few of the other states with the cases and all that sort of thing. We were able to stay in our homes and sort of maintain our own sort of bubble, as I said before, with the fly-in, fly-out method of games on the weekend. So that sort of started, and then I think it was late April maybe, that we went to the hubs.
Yeah, we were quite early, but we were before you guys, I think.
Yeah. So we did that and sort of lived the rest of the season out doing that. So it wasn't easy, that's for sure. But as I said at the start, we're sort of the lucky ones in the whole grand scheme of things, sort of secluded from everything and obviously the low risk of contracting the virus. But as I said, the AFL did a phenomenal job to keep the season alive and keep us all going.
Yeah, look, mine was very similar to Xavier in terms of the whole experience. Pretty much with with Adelaide, we were one of the first ones to move into that hub. So we got moved up to Gold Coast for, I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks. And as I've mentioned before in the lobby, I loved it just because obviously you know, we're 20, where we don't have, you know, families that we're leaving behind in our respective states and things like that. So it was very easy to move up there, and it was obviously in a ripping spot as well with great weather and great beaches. So I loved it. And I think another thing that was really cool was at the time we were obviously, we had our seniors playing their games, and then the twos were also able to play against like opposition teams. So if our seniors were playing, for example, Fremantle one weekend, we'd be able to play their reserves and sort of get a taste for like how they go about it and their style. So that was really cool in terms of getting a bit more experience than what you might at state level, despite obviously the Sample and Neve. Yeah. Well, and they're, of course, they're strong leagues. So, but yeah, it was great to get that experience and you know, sort of match up against other AFL listed players.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm going to ask you a bit of a cheesy one, but why not, hey? What's your favourite memory of your time during your stay here at St Bernard's?
Yeah, it'd be hard not to go past the Herald Sun Shield wins. They were pretty. I'm pretty sure Xavier would have said the same thing, but yeah, they were unreal. Like the whole process. I hated the wait because there was, remember, between the finals, there were 2 finals. Between the finals, there was something like 4 weeks break or something like that, and it was like eating away at you for 4 weeks because you knew you were going to play at either Simmons or the MCG, and you're like, oh, just come on, it'll be this weekend rather than 3 weekends away. But that was easily, they were easily the most, or the most memorable times that I had at St Bernard's, for sure, because you're playing with mates and mates that you've literally grown up with and have known for a really long time, and you know, to be able to share an experience like that was something really special.
I think just a quick shout out to Caroline Holland as well. We both worked in the canteen of in the morning before school. That was also one of the things I loved about going to school was walking in about 8 o'clock and start warming up the cheese and bacon rolls and sort of selling to all the boys. That was a special memory from school as well. So
sorry, Caroline, that was the next one on my list.
The cheese and bacon rolls are certainly still a staple down here. Just to jump back a little bit, what do you guys feel about the kind of few tweaks that the AFL made to the season this year, primarily around the shortened quarters? That seemed to have a pretty significant impact on the way teams had to kind of go into the game and kind of affect the way that, you know, I guess when and where you wanted to make your points and as such. How did you guys feel about it, and how did your teams effectively feel about it? Did it adjust the way that you guys had to really? Yeah, I guess. Sorry, what I'm more asking is, did it affect the club significantly? Did you just have to play effectively a different style of football to account for the lack of time in the quarters, or?
Oh, I think, you have to adjust a fair bit because obviously, like it's a significant less time that you're out there playing, and for some teams, playing that sort of extended time compared to this season is what they thrive on, and you have to sort of adjust to the shortened quarters. That was the 16-minute quarters. And it's just it's really fast paced. It's obviously a tiny little bit of a difference in fitness because it's so full on for 4 quarters instead of having, say, certain downtimes during quarters. But in the 2 games that I played, I sort of found it quite fast paced due to the shortened quarters. What about you?
Yeah, definitely. I think in terms of adjustment, you definitely have to, I suppose, mentally be ready for that, because obviously it is going a lot quicker and things like that. But in terms of changing playing styles and things like that, I didn't really experience that particularly at our club anyway. But you sort of have your game plans that you work on throughout the pre-season and things like that. And, by the time games roll around, it doesn't really matter if they're, 16-minute quarters or 20-minute quarters. You're still all trying to, I suppose, achieve the same thing and play your respective roles. And but on an individual note, I guess it's definitely different in terms of, you need to try and work your way into the game a bit quicker, and you need to be on your toes a bit more, I guess, so to speak. But I think it's one thing I found.
Yeah. And another thing I forgot to touch on was a few of the games were obviously like quite short turnaround. So there was days where teams would play like 4 or 5 days like in between. So we had to sort of adjust in that regard, because obviously we're used to having a minimum of about 6-day break between games. So we sort of had to focus and change our mindset to a more recovery-based sort of week with one sort of. I don't know if your club was different, but
no, the same.
Yeah, for us it was more focused around sort of getting ready for the games and prioritizing your sleep, your rehab, ice baths, all that sort of thing. So that was one thing that I wasn't personally quite used to.
Yeah, it certainly seemed to put on, I think the wider AFL community kind of recognised that, the amount of kind of additional stress on you guys as players, just because you are shortening those windows in between the games. And it was consistent as well, particularly towards that blitz week where everyone was playing, I think, 2 or 3 times nearly in about 2 weeks. And I was thinking, God, I don't know, we struggle to get around one of those games, let alone 3. This is another good one, I reckon. Favourite moments from the season, this season? What do you got for me? I think I may know what yours is going to be, Lachlan.
Well,
he won't say it.
There's a couple. There's a couple. Definitely, of course, debuting. Debuting's the top one, of course. That was a pretty big goal of mine that I'd had for a very long time, and to be able to get the nod from Nixie and the coaches was pretty awesome. But then the pre-game and stuff was just incredible, and the feeling, I was very fortunate as well in terms of crowd numbers. I actually got to play in front of a few people, so I think it was something like 10,000 that were allowed in at that time. So I think we played against Melbourne. So that was incredible to be able to play in front of a decent crowd. And I reckon, especially at Adelaide Oval, 10,000 can sound like 50 at times, but that was certainly the biggest highlight for me. But and then of course getting your first win is pretty awesome as well, and that sticky Gatorade shower at the end is pretty awesome as well.
He also forgot his favourite moment was getting 3 votes. Bale in the Brownlow count, so I'll add that one in for him.
You're a good friend. How about yourself, Xavier?
Yeah, no, as like you said, it's hard to go past your sort of announcement of your debut and sort of going through that whole process, that week of sort of just like pure excitement and joy, and sort of a feeling of accomplishment as well. That sort of you finally made it.
We were the same week as well, weren't we?
Yeah, we were. Yeah, it was bizarre. Announced sort of in same week and debuting on the same weekend and same round was kind of special and cool.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah, but 100% for me it was the debut game against Essendon, and it was a thriller, which is I hold quite special to my heart about sort of that close win. And as Lockie said, the Gatorade shower afterwards was pretty special. So hands down, sort of be my favourite moment of the season.
Thank you. Yeah, we figured it may be around those, but it's always nice to expand on those points. I nearly ended the meeting. That was the wrong button. I've got another one for you, Lockie. Round 17, bit of controversy around the Rising Star Award. How was the feel around the club, mate? And were the senior players kind of giving you a bit of stick, or how did that play out?
You probably won't believe me, but I was probably the one that cared the least, to be honest. It was all the boys found out they were beside themselves and just saying this is a joke, and all that Vic bias stuff kicked in and things like that. But honestly, it didn't bother me. It was pretty funny. And, I suppose at the same time, it was cool to see the reaction, but it honestly didn't bother me. And well, fortunately enough, I got one the next round anyway. So, I guess. But yeah, it was certainly a pretty cool thing to go through and to see, you know, people sort of supporting you. And although Isaac, I met Isaac a few times and played with him, but he's a ripping guy. So I don't mind him, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, looking ahead to the 2021 season, I know it's there's still probably a few things that need to be worked out, particularly from the AFL. But how do you guys feel about the upcoming season? You pretty pumped? I know you're probably looking for a bit of a break at this point, but I imagine you want to hit the ground running relatively early.
Yeah, I suppose there's still a little bit of sort of uncertainty about how the season will run next year, but for our club, it's business as usual in a way, and we're obviously in the off season at the moment, but still we train 3 times a week. So we're preparing for that December 7 start for the first to 4-year players. So yeah, we're priming and getting ready for the start of pre-season, and then obviously we'll have a break over the Christmas period, and then we'll be back into it in the start of January. So yeah, as I said, it's business as usual for us, and yeah, we just all want to sort of attack pre-season with a good attitude and sort of get as fit as we can and ready for the season next year.
I think to add to that as well, hopefully if things stay the way they are with, I suppose, the current cases and things like that, hopefully it'll get to a stage where we can play interstate in Melbourne and things like that. And it'd be pretty cool if we're lucky enough to get a few games. It'd be pretty awesome to go back home and play in front of, your friends and family and things like that. And obviously bigger crowds as well, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, well, forget you at the MCG. I reckon we can get to triple figures. What do you think?
Good on the MCG too.
Yeah,
that's true.
Now I might have lost my chat button still, but yeah, I might open up to the floor. If anyone does have a question that they'd like to raise to either of the boys, if you want to just pop it into, when I find it, the chat, or ask to be unmuted, and yeah, let you ask it.
Yeah, ask away.
Now, it might be a bit slow. My apologies, guys. It's also on me, given my button has gone astray. Well, while I figure out what I've done to the chat, got another one for you. You guys speak a bit about the onboarding process with the players. Like when you guys get to a team, is there a real sense of a culture of the senior players kind of taking you under their wing and really kind of mentoring you, for lack of a better term? How do you guys feel about that, or how did you experience that when you've been picked up?
Yeah, look, I was very fortunate. I was able to, with Adelaide set up and the whole bringing someone over process, I was able to move into one of the players' houses for a couple of weeks, and just to, I suppose, sort of, find my feet. And I was lucky enough to land at Tom Duday's house with his partner and his best mate at the time was living there as well. So we got on like a house on fire, and that was pretty awesome. And I suppose Tommy certainly, despite playing us, a little bit different positions, he was certainly there for me early days in terms of showing me the ropes and showing me, I suppose, what it takes to train at the level. And he was huge for me in terms of allowing me to settle in, and I suppose probably got me out of my shell a bit earlier than what I would have if I didn't stay there. So I was really lucky. Yeah,
I suppose for us at the Giants, I'd say about 3/4 of our team have all moved from interstate. So it's I'd like to think as probably one of the best family clubs of the competition, purely based on that reason, that we've all sort of moved from interstate, and 24/7, you're always around the football club, you're always around the footy boys. So it's technically like a second family for everyone that comes here. But yeah, definitely as soon as you walk in the door, you feel welcomed. You obviously understand that you have to earn the respect of, like, most importantly, the senior players, but everyone at the club as well. So, yeah, for me, walking into the club, I lived with Jai Caldwell in that gated community for the first year, pardon me.
Yep.
And yeah, as I said, the whole club as a whole is really welcoming, and sort of everyone in the senior team takes everyone playing twos or that are fringe players under their wings and tries to make each other better.
Yeah, it's good to hear. I've got another one for you actually as well. Just to jump back to the bubble. Out of curiosity, so obviously the AFL generally doesn't, you're not that close to each other in terms of being, next door to other teams and such. Do you guys experience any kind of, funny stories, any tension in teams that had it out maybe the night before and left it a bit unsettled on the ground?
Well, for us, we were funnily enough, we were staying in the same resort as the Port boys, and
Yep.
And they were obviously flying at the time, and ended up doing really well and got close. But at the time, they were winning games, and they were flying, and we were at that stage winless and struggling a little bit. So we let them have the main pool, and we sort of stayed away from there. We let the big boys hop in and wait for them to clear out, and then we sneak in. But that was pretty funny. Running into those boys, and you do see them quite a bit because there's one spot, I suppose, where the whole reception is and things like that, and you end up running into a lot of them, and you certainly which ones to steer clear of. I steered clear of Big Charlie. I was a bit scared. I stayed away from him. So
yeah, fair enough.
that was pretty funny.
We didn't really have any problems as such, but it was sort of bizarre in the fact that you were sharing a resort or a hotel with, say 2-3 other clubs at the one time, and sort of seeing them like walk around where you are as well. It's a bit strange, and you're not quite used to sort of living in the same precinct as other teams and clubs. But yeah, you quickly got used to it, and you all sort of had your own little areas, which thankfully that was the case. It probably would have been a bit different if you were sharing the same spaces and that sort of thing. But everyone's really friendly with each other. And our club especially, we have like a lot of ex-teammates in other teams and that sort of thing. So there's a few old friends catching up and all that in the resorts and the hotels, which is quite good.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Yeah, it was just a curious time, given that you're probably in any other normal circumstance, you'd probably only really interact with that team when you're playing them. And even just to wrap around to another point, how you're saying, it's a good opportunity if you're playing the seniors, that the seconds also got to play the same team. So just thought, it'd be a bit weird sometimes, just finish kind of having it out with a bloke on the field, and then you go back to the hotel. Oh, hey, mate. Yeah, sorry about that.
Everyone's generally pretty good with all that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Best as you
can. How do you guys feel about the recent trade period? Came to a pretty big kind of conclusion last night. Looks like it was a bit manufactured by the AFL, given they weren't allowing trades till after 3 p.m. But I don't think a lot of movement happened in your two clubs. But how do you feel about
that? For me personally, it was sort of strange. As I touched on, I live with Jai Caldwell, who's moved to Essendon.
Yeah.
I lived with him in my first and second year, and sort of, obviously that's sort of a big part of your life. First move out of home, live with another boy. You sort of, you become great mates, and it was sort of bizarre seeing people from your club and people that you've played several games with over the years leave, and just sort of the reactions in the club towards those trades. It's interesting, and I wish everyone that's left our club all the best, because obviously they're great mates of mine. But it is strange seeing sort of their names on social media, on like playing for different teams now and that sort of thing. I suppose the obvious one for us is big Jeremy Cameron. So he moved off to the Cats last night. But as I said, I wish him and all the other players who were traded or have requested trades from our club all the best. But it is a strange one.
To add to that, we didn't really. I don't think we had anyone. No, we didn't. We didn't have anyone come in the end. We had Jackson Haley. I don't think that ended up getting done. So that's still sorting itself out. But in terms of departures, it's never a great time, because you're sort of just starting to get to know people and you're forming bonds, and then the next minute they're gone, So trade period and I suppose delisting time is never really a great time for anyone involved at a footy club. And to add to what you said, it's obviously pretty flattening seeing a lot of your mates leave, and but at the same time it is it's their choice and is a very personal one, and circumstances change and things like that. So it's just, I suppose it's the nature of the competition, and happens every year, but I wish it didn't, to be honest.
Yeah, it's certainly a bit jarring, obviously for you guys more so than us, but to an extent we understand that like this is your job, so in one sense it's kind of just leaving a job for a new job, but it's a bit more than that given the environments that you guys play in with the team building and, as you mentioned too, bonding. Jeremy Cameron, it's certainly a big one. I imagine that's going to leave a bit of hole down the old GWS.
Yeah, but luckily enough, we have another fellow St Bernard's up and comer, Jake Riccardi. So
I think there's
one
for now.
where one sort of hole comes, it gets filled with another player. So I wish Jake and all our other forwards the best opportunity, or to take the opportunity as best they can. And as I said, there's always someone who will be lucky enough now to get that opportunity to sort of play that role and play in the team. So, it is definitely strange that I see him go.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I didn't really have too much come in, I think, because I've done something to the chat. So if anyone does want to ask a question, just ask to unmute yourself and I can make that happen.
G'day, Chris Bernard Comerford here.
There he is, yep.
How are you, boys?
I'm good, thanks, mate. How you going?
Yeah, look, I missed the first 5 minutes. I got stuck at work, but my question to you revolved around, again, a great debut by both of you this year, and Jake. I think one of my funniest moments of the year was getting a call from Michael Comerford at round 17 the Sunday afternoon. He's rung me in the car. I was on my way home from work. He said, "Dad, you've got to get home. Lockie's tearing Carlton the new one." I thought about summed up the day, and I had a chat with your dad last Thursday at lunch, Lockie, on Oaks Day. It was most enjoyable. Just the add to that was you three, Jake included, but also Noah Bolter this year. Noah, we've all seen Noah playing, junior footy since he was a young lad at Dooders and at school. He is an awesome prospect, for the next decade for the Tigers. What's that going to be like running? I know you've played a bit of footy with him at school and that. What's that going to be like running out on the ground and running into the big fella?
It was pretty awesome. I got to play against Noah, which was pretty funny, and I got to play against Jake as well, against GWS. Unfortunately, the big fella missed out, but that would have been pretty awesome if Jake and Xavier were in the same game. But yeah, look, it was very funny. I suppose we were sort of at opposite ends of the ground, myself and Noah, and also Jake. But chatting to them before and after the game, and sort of catching up with them on an AFL ground is pretty awesome. And I ran into Jake mid game, and we sort of just said, "How cool is this?" Like, that was a pretty awesome moment, especially. But yeah, both Noah and Jake had awesome years, and obviously Noah ended off the season very well with a flag. So it is very awesome coming up against blokes that you've grown up with on an AFL ground. Playing it against each other.
I think for me, despite not playing against Lockie or Noah, in previous times I've played obviously Jets versus Calder. I've played against Jake and Sholl in that. It is always it's a bit strange, obviously, because they're your mates and you're so used to playing footy with them. But yeah, once you're out there, you forget about all that and sort of get stuck into each other a little bit, but it's all in good nature, and you have a lot of fun with it.
Just tried to get everyone's mic and video on. I think we'll open it up completely. Hopefully that will allow people to ask questions. So with any luck, they slowly tick over. How's your Christmases look this year, guys?
Yeah, I think for me it'll probably be, definitely we'll be back in Melbourne. By then the borders will be open. So I'll be back home in Melbourne with spending time with the family and extended family as well. So that'll be good to get back and spend those few days over that Christmas period into sort of New Year's as well. And then obviously sort of have to get back up here for pre-season, which starts, I think, January 6th. So you get that little bit of time over Christmas.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure my mum's in this call, so I better say that I'm going home for Chrissy. No, I will be heading home over Christmas. I think it'll end around the 20th, I believe. So pretty much we'll have break-up drinks, and then everyone goes off to their home states to enjoy Christmas. And my family and a couple others have actually booked a holiday up to Gold Coast over New Year's. So
perfect.
Obviously that's sort of still up in the air, but the way things are going, fingers crossed, hopefully we're able to get up there and enjoy a bit of sun.
Yeah, with any luck, the borders will be open and such. Queensland's been a little bit stubborn, but I reckon we'll get there. Can I ask you guys, have you got any particular goals or milestones that you're trying to achieve in the new season for 2021? Is there anything in particular you're kind of out to do?
Yeah. You go.
No, I know it's very sort of like expected, but yeah, for myself, I only played the 2 games this year in the one. So I think I'm just setting myself the goal of sort of really attacking pre-season and putting my best foot forward in that regard to allow myself sort of the best chance of getting selected in the ones for next year. But yeah, ideally you want to play as many games as you can in the ones team, and I think that's my goal, to be sort of playing consistent AFL level footy. That's the thing that I'll be focusing on the most.
Yeah, very similar to Xavier for me. I think in terms of the whole pre-season and I'll try my best to approach that and put my best foot forward and make sure that I'm doing everything right to put my name up there for hopefully hopefully a round 1 gig, and if I'm lucky enough to get that, hopefully work from there. But if not, of course, it's not the end of the world. And from there, you just look to play consistent footy and try and keep up your training standards and things like that to make sure that you give yourself the best shot. But in terms of goals and things like that, I don't really have anything set. Sort of just want to, here comes a cliche, but take it one training session at a time and make sure that, you're doing everything possible to put your best foot forward.
It's good to hear. Now, I've just given everyone co-hosts, so hopefully that allows them to unmute and such. We'll just open it up again to the floor. Does anyone have any questions for the boys? Anything you're curious about? Not all at once.
Lockie, it's David Formosa here. You spoke a little bit about the draft and how sad it is to lose people, and you also said that no one came over to Adelaide. Was there a reason for that, do you think?
No, I don't believe so. Of course, on field and things like that, we probably didn't have the best year, but in terms of everything else, I honestly don't think that there'd be a reason as to why not. It's obviously, it's a fantastic club, and I know Xavier can attest to that at the Giants. They're professional organisations, and I'm sure every club's the same in terms of making sure that they do absolutely everything to make someone feel welcome and feel wanted. And I know the Crows certainly do that, and they were very much like that for myself and my family. They were extremely welcoming, very professional, and they're of course always there to help. So in terms of trades and things like that and people requesting, it's a lot of it is a personal choice. So there really isn't much that clubs can do about that. But yeah, no, it's sort of, you know, last year we were able to get a few in, and it's just it changes each year. So yeah, it's very much a different situation for every club.
Yeah, I think we were very similar last year. We didn't really have many people coming into our club that were obviously players already outside of the draft, and the 18-year-olds that would come in. Yeah, as like you said, each club has their own sort of year where it might be quite full on and might be a lot of players, like a lot of player movement. But yeah, there'll be years where sort of not many people come in or out. So
also, as young players in both of your respective teams, was there ever a time that you experienced because you'd stuffed up, experienced a spray from a coach or a senior player? How did that feel for the first time?
Oh yeah, I've got my fair share of sort of stern conversations and sort of like tough love in a way. But you just got to sort of remind yourself that they're doing it purely on the base to make you better and a better player. So yeah, I've definitely had a couple of sort of, like we call them edits, like the footage of games where it's highlighted on like your movement and the way you sort of use the ball, for example, where you might sit down with a coach and they'll go through it in quite sort of deep detail and sort of pick to pieces like what went wrong, what went right, sort of thing. But yeah, as I touched on, those conversations, are sort of designed to enable you to become a better player and learn that quicker. I suppose as well, like the immediate feedback that you can cop as well from sort of other players in the AFL side needs to be quite stern and sort of forthright. And at the time, it can come across as quite sort of confronting and sort of you're not kind of used to copying that feedback from an older player, or I wasn't at least, because our two side was quite young. It can sort of hit you straight away, and you're sort of flustered for a couple of seconds, but then you just get back to doing what you're doing. You obviously take that advice in and keep reminding yourself that they're doing it to sort of help you and the team.
Yeah, I certainly agree with what Xavier said there, but and at the same time, I think with those immediate conversations out on the ground, they may come across as a little bit stern, and it might, I suppose, catch you off guard. But at the same time, you got to remember that everyone's out there to try and win, and we're all out there together. So those conversations, whilst they can be aggressive, they all come from good places and places where everyone wants to help each other and demands the best of each other. And that's sort of one thing that you certainly learn, especially is that everyone's role is crucial to trying to win the game, and everyone relies on each other so much. So especially out on the ground, those things they can be aggressive, but it comes from a good place. And then also, of course, after the game, quite often if those conversations do happen, you either you joke about it with those blokes, or something funny might have been said like in the heat of the moment, but you can have a laugh about it afterwards, and follow it up. If you've said something that you think, oh, maybe I overstepped the mark there, or things like that, you can always, of course, go to them and clear it up. And it never gets to a stage where it's taken personal, because everyone wants to help each other. So it's probably one thing I'd add.
Yeah, and I guess this is the final question for me, before anyone that wants to jump in. There's millions of kids that aspire to be a professional sportsman, and only a small few get it. So you're extremely lucky in that respect. Has becoming a professional sportsman lived up to the to the expectations that you had as a junior footballer? Has it, in some aspects, has it I guess, over-delivered, and in other aspects, has it under-delivered for you?
Yeah, certainly. It's definitely been everything that I thought it would be and more, really, because, you know, I suppose I was very lucky with Dad. He had a reasonable level of experience at that level, and he was able to sort of give me a few heads up and a few tips along the way to make sure that I was as ready as possible. So, you know, he was great in that aspect for me, and sort of let me, I suppose, you know, half know what to expect. And you know, you can come into the club and you're really worried about making impressions and things like that. But, you know, if you sort of know what's going on in a sense, you know, that can certainly help. So Dad was great in that aspect. But in terms of everything else as well, you know, obviously you grow up loving footy and playing with your mates, and to you know, of course, I certainly watched a lot of footy growing up, and to you know, go from kicking a footy with this bloke down at St Bernard's to hitting up Tex Walker, it's it's pretty awesome. So well, you know, but yeah, no, it was pretty awesome to be able to experience that and meet players and get to know players that you've grown up idolizing, really. So I've absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I'm very similar to Lockie in that regard. I actually did enjoy hitting up Lockie in St Bernard's, but anyway, yeah, it is sort of everything that you do expect, and as you touched on, or as Lockie touched on, sorry, in some aspects a bit more as well. Just like an example, sort of the demand on your body, you're obviously not quite used to that. And for us, like growing up in Melbourne, you're obviously playing in your age group as well. So you're not quite used to playing in the seniors unless you've obviously had that exposure being outside of a sort of 18s competition at the TAC Cup level. That was probably the only thing that I sort of had to get used to quickly as well, or that you have to adjust to, sorry. But yeah, other than that, I think it's, everything expected. Obviously, the pre-season days can sort of become long and withdrawing of pretty much all of your energy. You come home pretty exhausted. And you don't really move from the couch after that. But overall, what I expected.
Got two more I've just thought for you, quite quick. Would you prefer to see a return back to the original quarter length? And the second one is, did you guys think that the move of the MCG turf to Queensland for the final was worth it?
Don't get me started.
Sorry, guys.
Nah, look, in terms of the first question, I didn't mind the 16-minute quarters, honestly. I don't mind either way. I'm pretty, I don't really mind, but I think there is, isn't it? There's talk of, like either staying at 16 or even moving to 18-minute quarters plus time on or something like that, something along those lines. So not sure. I think, you have those times where you might have a stinker and you go, oh, I wish I had, a couple more minutes in the quarter to, try and have a bit more of an influence. But look, the 16-minute quarters were all right. And quite often they still ended up being, 27, 28-minute quarters where, it's relatively similar to what the 20-minute quarters were. So, I honestly didn't mind it. And, it wouldn't bother me whether or not they stayed at 16 or went back to 20. But, and then the other question, the turf. That was, oh gosh, that was, when I read that on Facebook, I could not believe it. They could, especially because they didn't, I thought, you'd put it in the goal square or something like that, or somewhere on the field. It was between the boundary and the fake grass. It wasn't even on the field. So they might as well have gone to, the local park around the corner and grabbed that slab, but
would have been much cheaper, eh?
Yeah. Absolutely. And then the transport as well, of course. That's just the crap. I could not believe that.
The only thing I can think of in regards to the MCG turf is just that sort of sacred history of the game's always been played there. Well, the last game's always been played there in the granny. I suppose they sort of wanted to keep that sort of sentimental to the game and sort of have that aspect of people to sort of to have or hold on to in a way.
You'd hope they put it on the ground though instead of on the boundary.
I think you're right. We're all thinking that maybe in the goal square or something.
That was definitely interesting. And yeah, in regards to the first question about the length of quarters and that sort of thing, I'm very similar to Sholl. I'm not against it. I'm not for it. I'm happy with either or, and even if it does go to the 18 minutes, then you sort of adapt to it and you enjoy it anyway. I suppose everyone in the chat could attest to it. It might be a better spectacle anyway because it's so sort of fast paced and it's frantic 24/7. So it obviously, creates a sort of more exciting spectacle in a way due to that and the sort of full on nature of the game.
Yeah, you do generally get a lot more kind of explosive passages of play in that shortened time, don't you? That is something I think we did notice as the crowd, that there was a lot less time for kick to kick and shave a minute or two here because it was just, got to score, got to keep moving, so that perhaps does owe a bit of weight behind perhaps looking at keeping it shorter. But yeah, personally, I think the 18 minutes sounds like the best of both worlds. I guess it does leave it open to kind of, as you were saying, Lockie, that the quarters sometimes ended up being the same length anyway due to time on and other aspects anyway. But yeah, at this point, Bernard, I might throw it over to you.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks for the setup today. Obviously, you're not a Swan supporter, Chris, because I didn't see too many explosive patches of football at any stage from my red and white team, mate. We were pretty poor this year. But all that aside, I just wanted to thank the boys for their time this afternoon. Obviously, downtime for you and a busy schedule, hopefully a holiday somewhere within the confines of Australia, but just giving us a little bit of an insight into this amazingly unique COVID effective season of 2020. On behalf of the Old Collegians Association, and I think I can speak on behalf of the college, we're very proud of you both. We're very proud of Jake as well, and Noah and all the other boys in the system. Still Benny Ronk and hopefully I know Dylan Gallant's not an old St Burns boy, but he certainly was a big part of the club coming through. It takes a power of hard work to get to where you've got to. I said Dylan Gallant then. I meant Lockie Gallant, didn't I? Dylan's the older brother. But a power of hard work to you guys to get to where you are, not only you guys, but also your parents. And I know I've had a close contact with Xavier's family, particularly through swimming as well. And, I just know the hours that goes into the travel and the time and the parental involvement. Lockie said mum's listening. I can see Kelly's name on the notice board up there. I'd give them a warning to get that fridge filled up for when they get home. There'll be a power of eating done over the Christmas period. Wish you both all the very best for the 2021 season and beyond. I hope all your dreams can be fulfilled. Lockie, you've got to beat the old man. He played about 40 odd games, I think, didn't he? And that's going to be your next goal.
He's still holding that over me.
Yeah, he's got you at the moment. I think you might have him covered, son. I think finally, just say that as long as you boys know that the doors are always open at the college and down at the footy club for a return anytime. We're very proud of you, and we wish you all the best for next year and beyond.
No, thank you, Bernie. Really appreciate it, and thank you guys for hosting and hopping on as well. We're more than happy to chat anytime. So this was really enjoyable. I loved it.
Yeah, just to echo Sholl. Just thank you very much for the opportunity to sort of connect back to sort of where we came from and see some familiar faces and hear from some familiar voices. As you said, thank you very much for allowing us this opportunity, and it was great fun.
Well done. Chris, I'll hand it back to you.
Thanks for that, Bern. Yeah, just lastly,